Thank you for being here today. I've enjoyed your talk so much. First of all, I've used your product and I wanted to say it felt like Animal Crossing meets WeWork. And I wanted to know what are some of magical collaborations that happen on your platform.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all, and thanks for using the product. I do think it is a bit like Animal Crossing and WeWork, and I kind of like both, so that works. Some of the magical collaborations, I think there's collaboration that happens on a few different levels. And so at the smallest atomic unit, for example, is all of the collaboration that we enable in any individual office, right? And so inside a company, and so for those who don't know, we build the workplace metaverse. And so we have lots of teams that come in and they kind of have their own individual private office and their teams work together in their little office. And inside those offices, any given company has lots of teams in it. So you might have a design team or an engineering team or a marketing team or what have you. And so being able to give all these individual teams a space where different permutations of those teams can come together, sit at a table together and have conversations that would be very difficult to have using sort of the traditional Zoom and Slack method is something that we found really special.
Right.
And then if you go like a layer up and you say, okay, well, those are the individual offices. Well, what happens if you put them all in one world, right? So you'll have, in our world, there's buildings, and inside or I guess each building is owned by a different company. When you have the little avatars at any given office come outside and meet other people who happen to work next to them in the metaverse, they don't know these people beforehand, right? Okay. And so for them to be able to meet and form a collaboration, that's something very special too. And we've seen some really interesting relationships come from people who previously didn't know each other, but happen to live in the same neighborhood in the SoWork metaverse.
Maybe not Animal Crossing and WeWork, but Animal Crossing and LinkedIn, kind of like that.
Yeah, that's
you could say that too.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And I wanted to touch up on the team building and team bonding on your platform. So since COVID, people moved away from big cities like New York, London, but then people started to come back eventually. So they see that there's like a real element, like they see the importance in like meeting in person to build a team, do a team bonding. So in a decentralized world like your platform, how do you see your platform making teams bonding and making connections stronger in a decentralized world?
Yeah, no, it's a really great point. And so I guess for the record, I really love people and in-person time. And so for me, my personal take is that you should meet with your team in person every quarter or so, right? I think that's really healthy for teams. So for example, right now I'm on a sort of like a tour where I'm going around the world to our different hubs because we've managed to hire from all over the world. So I just came back from Boston, that's our headquarters, and that's where a big chunk of the team is located. And we had kind of like a mini team retreat where all of us got together. We did a whole bunch of team bonding and team building type stuff as well as some work. I went to Spain and visited the Spain team. There's about 7 of them. We had, a week-long retreat, lots of fun, good amount of work as well. Went to the UK, did the same thing, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think, as long as teams are meeting like kind of regularly, maybe that's every quarter, it'll depend for each team. Getting that in-person time in, that helps to solidify these in-person relationships and helps to build trust among teammates. And trust is really a prerequisite for any good work to happen. Then I think the majority of work can actually happen in a decentralized way, right? The majority of work, let's say the other three, the time every year between those quarterly meetups, which is, most of the year, I think I prefer to let, my recommendation is that teams should allow their employees to live wherever in the world they want so that they can be around their loved ones and spend that high value time living life on their terms, right? I don't mean to discount time with your team, but I don't think it needs to happen as frequently as it used to in kind of the old work world before COVID. You'd mentioned that people are coming back to big cities, and I think it's true that some percentage of people will come back. But it really isn't going to be as big as everybody returns back. For example, I had dinner with a very senior director at Google recently, and I won't disclose the name, but he told me that, Google asked me to come back to the in-person office in Mountain View. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did you say? And he said, I emailed back and said no, one word.
Right.
And they emailed him and said, oh, no problem, here's a moving stipend. So I think like companies are going to find out really quickly that a lot of people have settled down in different parts of the country or different parts of the city, or even just things that suit them a bit better, and they're not really going to have the pressure to come back to the office if they're senior enough, or if the company's ethos is that anybody should be able to work from anywhere for most of the year.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. On changing the topic a bit, I wanted to ask more philosophical topic about virtual work. So with COVID, we adopted new types of work like remote work, even in Japan, which seemed so difficult, it happened. So do you think that humans are being more adaptable to technologies, or technologies are being engineered to be more adaptable for humans?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And we face the same thing. Like my other job is as a doctor, right? And so in medicine is like the kind of career equivalent to Japan as a country, in that it's like very conservative, right? And so it's very difficult to change anything in medicine, very, very difficult. But still in medicine, immediate switch to telehealth, right? Immediate. And before COVID, not in a million years would we think that that was possible, but it happened. And so I think like whenever any big event like this happens, we develop technology to help us cope with the situation in front of us. So that's humans adapting to tech, right? But then once we get past the critical period, i.e. the first 2 years of COVID, let's say, we then reach a place where we can now start adapting the technology to the desired lifestyle that we want to live.
Right.
So I think it's actually both. Like the pendulum would swing all the way over to, okay, humans, you have to adapt to this tech, otherwise we're not going to make it, right? And then now this pendulum is starting to swing back over. Probably won't go all the way. Maybe it'll stop about here or something. But that's that's tech adapting to, okay, well, what's the desired way we want to live our lives? Because guess what? Like, we get to choose, right? Like, we have the say over technology, at least for now.
I see. I completely agree with that as well. Well, I'm excited for your next plans, and thank you for being here today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.